Today I'll be making some vintage looking clocks. Here's some sketches I made. This will be a great way to use up some of my scrap cardstock that's beginning to pile up. The first clock I'll be hand cutting the pieces as I go. So I'm getting a few measurements to help me get inspired. My sketches are not patterns, they're just sketches, but it helps me keep them to scale. Some of my scrap may be cereal box or really heavy cardstock. This layer will be the front of the clock. I need to thicken it up, so I'm gluing it down to some more scrap. And I'll do that a few times and cut it out. Having this piece will now help me design the rest of my clock. I think it's probably about 3 layers thick or so. This is the next piece that I'm making. It's where the clock face will be. I laid my front piece down and I'm tracing and marking where the clock face will sit. I'm not sure why I traced it with my circle template, maybe to get an idea of the size of the clock face. Here's how that piece is looking. Now I need to thicken it up. So same as the front, I'm gluing and cutting to a desired thickness, probably about 3 layers again. Unfortunately, I either didn't hit record or I lost my footage, but these are all of the pieces so far for this clock. There is a solid back and what I'm calling the inner body piece. The inner body piece gets glued down to the back. Now this decorative top piece, working in 1/16 scale, this will be a challenging piece. Drawing out how I would like it to look, I only need to have one good side. Then I can fold and cut to create the mirror image on the opposite side. I'm holding the piece that will have the clock face on it to check the arch and probably the width too. I really like the left half better than the right half. Now I can fold it and cut it out. I had to use my tiny scissors for the center design. I'm just hoping I don't lose a lot of the shape when I cut it from the cardstock. I put a little bit of Elmer's roll-on glue, that purple stuff, to hold my pattern while I trace it. It's something new I've been trying and it seems to peel away pretty easy. Do you see that little detailed area in the center? I just hope I can cut it or make it look close enough. Here it goes. I went very slow and turned my cardstock and not the scissors so much. Now I'm gluing it down to thicken it up. Cutting it will be even more tricky. Since it's such a small piece, I'm sanding the curved area with my nail sander. I'm painting just the inside of the back and the inner body piece. I'm also painting the piece that will have the clock face on it. I painted the pendulum gold, and here I'm checking for the best position for the pendulum. I glued the pendulum in place and I'm also gluing the piece that will have the clock face. I painted the front piece focusing on the edge of the opening. Once that's dry, I glue it on and then I cover it with masking tape to keep clean while I sand the edges smooth. Masking tape is removed when I'm finished sanding. I cut a couple of small rectangles to create a decorative base for the clock. Here is what that piece looks like. I'm gluing it to the clock, keeping the back edge flat with the clock. Here I'm gluing the fancy top piece onto the top of the clock. I wanted to add some decorative elements to the front, so I'm using a slender strip of cardstock that I'm going to stagger and layer on top of the previous piece. Here's how that piece looks. I hope you can tell what it is. I made 4 of them. I painted the entire outside of the clock with wood glue. I didn't paint the clock face area or the pendulum because they're already complete. When the glue is dry, I finish painting the outside of the clock. I tried to age the clock face with pastels and colored some paper with Sharpie to cut the small clock hands from. I just cut little slivers. I am gluing the frame to the clock face. For the frame, I just drew a circle and cut out the center. Here I'm gluing it into position on the clock. Once the clock face was on, this clock just seemed to come to life. I kept expecting to hear it make a tick-tock sound or see the pendulum move. For the final touch, I filled in that clock face area with diamond glaze. You could always paint it with Mod Podge too if you don't have diamond glaze. While making this clock in the beginning, I almost threw it out several times. I'm glad I stuck with it. The second clock I cut out with my cutting machine. It has a back, inner body, front, decorative pieces, clock face, frame, and pendulum. Most of the pieces are 1/16 of an inch thick, which is 4 layers of heavy cardstock. Never used it, but you could probably use the same thickness of chipboard or wood. The inner body is 3/16 thick, so that would be 12 layers of cardstock or 3 layers of 1/16 inch thick chipboard. The base pieces are each 1/16 of an inch thick. The clock face pieces are 2 layers each, or whichever you prefer, and the pendulum is 3 layers of cardstock. I have all of the inner body pieces already glued together. Then I glue that to the back. I glue the base pieces together, keeping the back flat, creating a staggered front and sides. Here I'm painting the inner edge of the opening of the front. Then I glued the front onto the clock. I also painted the inside of that piece like I did on the previous clock, and the pendulum is already glued into position. Then I sand the clock and the base section. I glue the base to the clock, keeping the back edges even. And I'm painting the entire outside with wood glue. Try not to paint too close to the opening though. I rounded one end of a Q-tip and quilled a slender 1.5 inch piece of paper near the tip. Make sure to cover that with plenty of glue so it doesn't unravel. I drilled a hole into the top of the clock and glued the quilled piece onto the clock. You can always use a bead instead of quilling. It will look a lot like this. Now I'm painting the exterior of the clock. Here I'm gluing those two pieces together, and then I glue the face to the clock. You can position it higher or lower, it's your preference really. I thought it would be fun to paint a decorative design on the front. You can always embellish any way you like. Here it is complete. Here's clock number 3. It has a back, inner body, front, pieces for the decorative base, clock frame, and pendulum. Same as the previous clocks, glue the 12 inner body pieces together and glue to the back. I partially painted the inside. Paint the inner edge the color you plan to paint your clock. Paint and glue the pendulum in place. I had changed the pendulum shape for this one. Unfortunately, I didn't care for it, so I had to glue a circle over it. And then I glued the front to the clock and sanded it like I did for all of the other clocks. I assembled one large and one small decorative piece for the top and bottom. Keeping the backs even, I sanded them and glued one to the bottom and one to the top. I removed the tape and drilled a hole on top. I rounded a Q-tip and paper quilled a small 1.5 inch piece of paper to it. You can always use beads instead. I glued it into place on the top of the clock. I painted the whole clock with wood glue. I forgot though, I wanted to try something new. I peeled off the top layer of some small corrugated cardboard and I cut a column for each side of the clock from it. I painted it with wood glue too. I like how it turned out. I glued some paper to itself and cut 1/8 inch strips from it. I created little loops by gluing them around a dowel. I pinched them into a teardrop shape. I really made more than I needed because I wasn't sure how many I needed. I glued a large and a small loop on each side of the Q-tip post. I was hoping it looked like wrought iron. It helped add some detail up there. I painted the clock and then painted the wrought iron black. Clock 4 has all of the pieces that the previous clocks have, except there's a new piece, and I hope to bend this piece across the top to create that curved edge. I glued the layers of the inner pieces together and glued it to the back. I painted the inside and glued the pendulum in place. I also painted the inner edge of the opening on the front. I spritz the strip of paper with some water and I curve it across the top of the clock. I'm not gluing it, I'm just pressing it into place first, shaping it. And I use my ruler to help catch those little notches that are on the side. I accidentally crushed some of the front trying to do it too, so I'm fixing it. This is how it's looking. And I added all of the other elements in the same way as in the previous clocks. Here are all of the finished clocks. Not too bad for using scrap. Oh, and be sure to check in the description for the free patterns. I'll see you next time.